15 moments that made history at the Oscars. The Academy Awards have always been more than just a celebration of cinema. They're a mirror reflecting the evolving face of America itself. For nearly a century, these golden statuette marked not only artistic achievements, but profound cultural milestones that transcend entertainment. When we look back at Oscar history, certain moments stand out not just for their drama or surprise, but for how they fundamentally change the conversation about film representation and our shared cultural values. These weren't just memorable moments. They were seismic shifts that altered Hollywood's landscape forever. Tonight, we're exploring 15 watershed Oscar moments that didn't just make headlines, they made history. From barrier-breaking wins that challenged America's racial divides to shocking controversies that captivated millions. These are the Academy Award moments that transcended the ceremony itself to become part of our collective cultural memory. Some of these moments represented long overdue recognition. Others captured lightning rod controversies of their eras. But aloft them in their own way reveal how the Academy Awards have served as both a showcase for Hollywood's greatest achievements and a stage for America's ongoing conversations about who we are and who deserves to be celebrated. So, let's roll out the red carpet and revisit the 15 most consequential moments in Oscar history, beginning with a groundbreaking achievement that came at a time when its recipient wasn't even allowed to sit with her peers. Academia of Motion Picture Arts and Science. Fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guest, this is one of the happiest moments of my life. One Hattie McDaniel becomes the first Black Oscar winner. 1940. On February 29, 1940, at the Coconut Grove of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, history was quietly made when Hattie McDaniel won Best Supporting Actress for a role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. In that moment, McDaniel became the first African-American to win an Academy Award, a milestone made all the more remarkable by the circumstances surrounding it. The irony of that night could not have been more stark. While McDaniel was deemed worthy of Hollywood's highest honor, she was not considered worthy to sit with her white castmates. The Ambassador Hotel was segregated, and McDaniel was initially not even going to be allowed into the ceremony. It took the intervention of Gone with the Wind producer David O. Selnick to secure her entry. Even then, she wasn't permitted to sit at the table with her co-stars Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable. Instead, being relegated to Asmal table against a far wall. When McDaniel took the stage to accept her Oscar, she gave a gracious brief speech that acknowledged the magnitude of the moment. "This is one of the happiest moments of my life," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry." The path to that podium had been extraordinarily difficult. Born to former slaves in 1893, McDaniel had faced criticism from all sides throughout her career. While white Hollywood offered her only stereotypical Mammy roles, she simultaneously faced criticism from the NAACP and black press for accepting such parts. Her famous response was, "I'd rather play a maid than be one." She made history in a room that didn't want her. This paradox defined McDaniel's Oscar moment and much of her career. Her victory represented both progress and painful evidence of how far America still had to go. Despite winning Hollywood's highest honor, McDaniel would continue to face discrimination. When she died in 1952, her final wish told buried in Hollywood Cemetery was denied because of the graveyard's whites-only policy. For Golden Age Hollywood enthusiasts, McDaniel's win represents both a pioneering achievement and a sobering reminder of the industry's deeply problematic past. Her Oscar, which he left to Howard University, but which later disappeared, symbolized both the possibility of recognition and the limitations placed on black talent during Hollywood's so-called Golden Age. While McDaniel's quiet dignity made history in 1940, our next momentous Oscar moment came from a star who deliberately used the Academy's platform for pointed political protest. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. Point 2, Marlon Brando rejects his Oscar. 1973. By 1973, Marlon Brando was no longer just a movie star. He was a cultural force. His performance as Don Vito Corleone in The Godfather had resurrected his career and reminded the world of his towering talent. When he was announced as Best Actor at the 45 Teach Academy Awards, the audience erupted in applause only to watch in shock as a young Apache woman in traditional dressed up the stage instead. Hello, my name is Sachin Littlefeather. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. She explained the reasons for this being the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry and on television and movie reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. The audience response was divided. Some applauded. Many booed that I end that moment. Brando transformed the Oscar ceremony from a self-congratulatory industry event into a platform for political protest. For the first time, a major star had used their Academy recognition to shine a spotlight on injustice rather than to advance their own career. The context of Brando's protest was the ongoing occupation at Wounded Knee, South Dakota, where members of the American Indian movement were engaged in a standoff with federal agents. By connecting Hollywood's portrayal of Native Americans to real-world oppression, Brando challenged the industry's comfortable separation from political realities. For classic Hollywood fans, this moment marked a profound shift in what the Oscars could represent. The old studio system with its tightly controlled stars and apolitical public personas was giving way to a new era where actors could use their platform for advocacy. Stars who had been raised in the studio tradition were gassed. John Wayne, the embodiment of Hollywood's mythologized West, reportedly had to be physically restrained backstage from confronting Littlefeather. What many don't know is that Littlefeather had prepared a much longer speech written by Brando, but producers threatened to arrest her if she spoke for more than 60 seconds. The complete text, published later in the New York Times, was a scathing critique of Hollywood's dehumanization of Native Americans across decades of film history. The award was golden. The statement was louder. Brando's rejection of the Oscar transcended the ceremony itself, forcing Americans to confront uncomfortable questions about representation and historical amnesia. While some dismiss it as inappropriate grandstanding, history has largely vindicated Brando's decision. In 2022, nearly 50 years after that night, the Academy formally apologized to Littlefeather for her treatment, acknowledging that her appearance had been a powerful statement that continues to remind us of the necessity of respect. While Brando rejected his Oscar to make a statement, our next historic moment features a gracious acceptance that was revolutionary in its own right. Start in front of me, my whole future, a big blank empty space full of nothing. Third, Sidney Poitier wins Best Actor, 1964. When Sidney Poitier ascended the stage of the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium on April 13, 1964, to accept the Best Actor Oscar for Lilies of the Field, he did more than claim a personal victory. He shattered one of Hollywood's most persistent racial barriers. Poitier, when coming just months after Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, and during the height of the civil rights movement, transcended cinemato, become a national milestone. It has been a long journey to this moment. Poitier said in his brief, dignified acceptance speech, the understatement masked an extraordinary truth. The 37-year-old actor had overcome poverty, limited education, and systemic racism to reach Hollywood's highest peak of recognition. The significance of Poitier's win cannot be overstated. In an industry that had long relegated black actors to servant roles, comic relief, or musical performances, Poitier had steadily built a career playing characters of intelligence, dignity, and moral strength. His Oscar-winning role as Homer Smith, a traveling handyman who helps a group of nuns build a chapel in the Arizona desert, showcased his remarkable screen presence and quiet authority. For many in Black America, Poitier's Oscar represented more than individual achievement. It was a symbol of possibility. As critic Wesley Morris later wrote, "For a brief moment, all the doors appeared to be open, all the battles already won." The standing ovation that greeted his victory spoke volumes about the industry's recognition of both his talent and the historic nature of the moment. Yet, Poitier's win also came with enormous pressure. As the sole black leading man in Hollywood throughout the 1960s, he bore the burden of representing an entire race. The kinned-off Negro that white people liked in the films was how he later described his predicament. His roles, the doctor in No Way Out, the escaped convict with principles in The Defiant Ones, the dignified drifter in Lilies of the Field, were carefully crafted to appeal to white audiences while maintaining enough authenticity to resonate with black viewers. A standing ovation that broke through the industry's oldest wall. Poitier's Oscar victory created a hairline crack in Hollywood's racial barriers. Though not the immediate breakthrough many hoped for, it would be another 38 years before another black man won Best Actor. Nevertheless, his win established that excellence could not be denied based on race alone, even in an industry as historically exclusionary as Hollywood. For classic film enthusiasts, Poitier's Oscar moment represents both the promise and limitations of Hollywood's approach to racial progress. A genuine achievement that highlighted how exceptional a black performer had to be to receive recognition that routinely went to white actors. While some Oscar moments make history through planned recognition, others become historic through shocking errors. As our next unforgettable Academy moment demonstrates, I'm sorry. No, there's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture. Moonlight won. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. I'm afraid they read the wrong thing. 4. The La La Land / Moonlight mix-up. 2017. The 89th Academy Awards on February 26, 2017 delivered what many consider the most shocking moment in Oscar history, when La La Land was mistakenly announced as Best Picture, only to be corrected minutes later in favor of the actual winner, Moonlight. The error unfolded on live television as presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, visibly confused when they opened their envelope, announced La La Land as the winner. The musical's producers, cast, and crew jubilantly took the stage and began their acceptance speeches. Producer Jordan Horowitz was midway through his remarks when commotion erupted behind him as Oscar officials rushed on stage. Horowitz, realizing what had happened, interrupted his own speech to make a stunning announcement. There's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture. He held up the correct card to prove it, adding, this is not a joke. As the Moonlight team made their shocked way to the stage, Beatty explained that he had been handed the duplicate Best Actress envelope, which read Emma Stone Land rather than the Best Picture envelope. The mix-up was a spectacular television moment, but its historical significance ran far deeper. Moonlight, a small-budget film about a gay black man's coming of age in Miami, represented everything that Hollywood traditionally overlooked. Black stories, LGBT+ narratives, and intimate character studies over spectacle. Its victory over La La Land, a nostalgic celebration of Hollywood itself, symbolized a potential shift in what the Academy valued. For cinema historians, the dramatic correction created a perfect metaphor for Hollywood's struggle to recognize overlooked voices, as if the industry itself were saying, we almost gave the award to the expected choice before realizing we needed to honor this groundbreaking work instead. The aftermath was immediate. PricewaterhouseCoopers, the accounting firm responsible for the envelopes, issued a profuse apology. New procedures were implemented for future ceremonies, but a cultural impact was even greater. The phrase envelope please would never sound quite the same, and the moment entered popular culture as shorthand for shocking public mistakes. Live TV's most shocking pivot ever. Beyond the drama and embarrassment, this Oscar mistake inadvertently highlighted how historic Moonlight's victory truly was. The first LGBTQ+ themed film, and the first with an all-black cast to win Best Picture. The error ensured that what might have been a quietly significant moment became one of the most widely discussed Oscar outcomes of all time. While Moonlight's victory represented a breakthrough for Black and LGBTQ+ storytelling, our next historic Oscar moment broke barriers of language and national origin. And the Oscar goes to Parasite .5. Parasite becomes the first non-English Best Picture winner. 2020 to for 92 years, one unwritten rule had persisted at the Academy Awards. Best Picture winners speak English. Foreign language films could compete in the International Feature Film category, formerly Best Foreign Language Film. But the top prize remained the exclusive domain of English language productions. That all changed on February 9th, 2020, when Bong Joon-ho's Parasite made Oscar history. When Jane Fonda opened the envelope and announced Parasite as Best Picture, the Dolby Theater erupted. The South Korean thriller had already won Best International Feature Film, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Director. But this final victory represented a seismic shift in the Academy's recognition of global cinema. Asper said in her acceptance speech, "I'm speechless. We never imagined this to happen. We are so happy." Behind her, the cast and crew celebrated with unrestrained joy while the audience gave them a standing ovation. When the Academy attempted to dim the lights on the celebration, the crowd chanted, "Up! Up!" demanding the Parasite team be given their full moment. The significance of this victory extended far beyond a single film. For decades, masterpieces of world cinema had been relegated to the foreign language category, regardless of their quality or cultural impact. Federico Fellini, Ingmar Bergman, Akira Kurosawa, none had seen their films win Best Picture despite their towering influence on cinema. Parasite broke through that invisible barrier, suggesting that perhaps the Academy was finally embracing a more global perspective. Parasite itself was the perfect film to make this breakthrough. A razor-sharp social satire about class inequality that resonated across cultural boundaries. As Bong Joon-ho had quipped earlier in the evening after winning Best International Feature, once you overcome the one-inch-tall barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more amazing films. For classic film enthusiasts, many of whom had long championed international cinema, Parasite's victory represented a belated recognition that great film transcends language. The win coincided with the Academy's efforts to diversify its membership, adding more international voters who could appreciate cinema beyond Hollywood's borders. Hollywood spoke Korean, and the world cheered. This historic victory suggested a possible future where the Academy Awards might truly become a global celebration of cinema rather than primarily an American one. Whether Parasite represents a singular exception or the beginning of a new era remains to be seen, but its historic Best Picture would permanently altered our understanding of what an Oscar-winning film can be. While Parasite broke barriers of language, our next historic moment represented a long-overdue breakthrough in racial representation. Halle Berry and Monsters B.6. Halle Berry wins Best Actress 2002. When Halle Berry's name was announced as Best Actress at the 74th Academy Awards for her performance in Monsters Ball, the historical weight of the moment was not lost on anyone, least of all Berry herself. As she took the stage, visibly overcome with emotion, she struggled to compose herself before delivering one of the most moving acceptance speeches in Oscar history. "This moment is so much bigger than me," Berry said through tears. "This moment is for Dorothy Dandridge, Lena Horne, Diane Carroll. It's for the women that stand beside me, Jada Pinkett, Angela Bassett, Vivica Fox. And it's for every nameless, faceless woman of color that now has a chance because this door tonight has been opened." The magnitude of Berry's achievement was staggering. 74 years of Academy Awards, and she was the first black woman to win Best Actress. Her victory came 62 years after Hattie McDaniel's groundbreaking supporting actress win, highlighting how slowly Hollywood's barriers were falling. While the supporting categories had seen several black winners, the leading actress category had remained exclusively white. Berry's performance as Letitia Musgrove, a woman who becomes involved with the white corrections officer Billy Bob Thornton, who executed her husband, was raw and fearless. The role required Berry to strip away both literally and figuratively, exposing herself physically in intimate scenes and emotionally in moments of devastating grief. That such a complex, flawed character became the vehicle for this historic first was itself significant. For many observers, Berry's win see Meadow herald a new era of opportunity for actresses of color. The emotion in her acceptance speech reflected not just personal triumph, but the hope that her victory would open doors for others. As she said that night, "Now I have a chance. I have opportunity now that I never had before." An overdue moment that still hasn't been repeated. Perhaps the most sobering aspect of Berry's historic win is that more than 2 decades later, she remains the only black woman to have won Best Actress. What seemed like a breakthrough has instead highlighted how exceptional the circumstances must be for a black actress to receive the Academy's shyest recognition. Berry herself has expressed disappointment that her victory did not lead to the transformation she had hoped for. For students of Hollywood history, Berry's isolated win stands as both a milestone of progress and evidence of how much further the industry still needs to go. The image of her clutching her Oscar, overcome with emotion at breaking a 7-decade barrier, remains one of the most powerful in Academy history. A moment of genuine triumph tinged with the sobering reality of how exceptional it remains. While Berry's win represented a living actress reaching a historic milestone, our next Oscar moment marked a poignant posthumous recognition. First of all, you are from Australia, but I don't know where in Australia. Where you from? Perth, Western Australia. Never been to Perth, but Abe 7. Heath Ledger wins a posthumous Oscar. 2009. The announcement of Heath Ledger as Best Supporting Actor at the 81st Academy Awards on February 22 ND, 2009, created one of the most emotionally charged moments in Oscar history. Just 13 months after his tragic death at age 28 from an accidental prescription drug overdose, Ledger was honored for his extraordinary performance as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. As Kevin Kline opened the envelope and read Ledger's name, the audience rose in a standing ovation that was as much a tribute to a brilliant life, cut short its recognition of his remarkable performance. The camera panned across faces showing genuine emotion rather than the polite applause that often accompanies Oscar moments. Ledger's parents, Kim and Sally, and sister Kate, accepted the award on his behalf, announcing that it would eventually go to his 3-year-old daughter, Matilda. "Heath, we both knew what you had created in The Joker was extraordinarily special, and had even talked about being here on this very day." His father said, "We really wish you were, but we proudly accept this award on behalf of your beautiful Matilda." What made this moment historically significant went beyond the usual poignancy of posthumous recognition. Ledger's win marked a turning point in how the Academy viewed performances in commercial films, particularly those based on comic books. Before The Dark Knight, superhero films had been relegated to technical awards. Ledger's transformative portrayal of the Joker, a character studying chaos and anarchic evil, forced the Academy to recognize that great acting could exist in any genre. For film historians, Ledger's Oscar represents a bridge between old and new Hollywood, a performance that combined the method intensity of Brando or Dyro with actor from popular culture. His win helped legitimize comic book adaptations as potential vehicles for serious artistic achievement, forever altering the landscape of what might be considered Oscar-worthy. A brilliant final act, honored in silence. The somber nature of this Oscar moment stood in stark contrast to the typical celebratory atmosphere. No one who witnessed it could forget the bittersweet quality of recognizing such extraordinary talent while mourning its premature loss. Ledger became only the second actor to win a posthumous Oscar following Peter Finch, for Network adding his name to a small sad list of artists recognized after they were gone. Ledger's Oscar win remains one of the few times when the Academy Award transcended industry recognition to become a genuine cultural moment of collective grief and appreciation. It serves as a reminder of both what was lost and what remains, a performance of such indelible power that it will be studied by actors for generations to come. From the solemn tribute to Ledger, we move to perhaps the most shocking unplanned moment in Oscar history. Oh, wow. 8. Will Smith slaps Chris Rock 2022 at the 94th Academy Awards on March 27th. 2022 delivered what instantly became one of the most notorious moments in Oscar history when Best Actor nominee Will Smith walked onto the stage and slapped presenter Chris Rock across the face after Rock made a joke about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. Rock, presenting the Best Documentary Feature Award, had quipped, "Jada, I love you to G.I. Jane too. Can't wait to see it," referencing her shaved head, which was due to alopecia, an autoimmune disorder causing hair loss. After initially appearing to laugh, Smith approached the stage and struck Rock, then returned to his seat and twice shouted, "Keep my wife's name out your mouth." The uncensored moment aired in many countries, though U.S. broadcasts quickly cut the audio. The Dolby Theater fell into stunned silence, with audience members uncertain whether they had witnessed a scripted bit or a genuine assault. Rock, visibly shaken but maintaining remarkable composure, continued with his presentation, commenting, "That was the greatest night in the history of television." The historical significance of this moment extends beyond mere scandal. It's represented an unprecedented breach of the carefully maintained decorum that has defined the Academy Awards for nearly a century. Even in an era of increasingly casual celebrity behavior, the Oscars have maintained a veneer of old-school Hollywood elegance and restraint. Smith's actions shattered that pretense on live global television. Just minutes after the slap in one of the ceremony's most surreal juxtapositions, Smith won Best Actor for his performance in King Richard. His tearful acceptance speech included an apology to the Academy and his fellow nominees, though notably not Iraq, and an attempt to explain his actions. Love will make you do crazy things. I hope the Academy invites me back. The aftermath was swift. Smith resigned from the Academy, which subsequently banned him from attending the Oscars for 10 years. The incident sparked intense debate about comedy, boundaries, race, toxic masculinity, and the protection of black women. Discussions that revealed deep cultural divisions about how to interpret what had occurred. The most chaotic Oscars moment in modern memory. For historians of the Academy Awards, the Smith-Rock altercation represents a fascinating collision between the Academy's aspirational identity and the messier realities of human emotion. In an institution built on careful image management, this unscripted moment of raw anger revealed the limits of Hollywood's ability to control its narrative. For classic film enthusiasts accustomed to the dignity of Oscar's golden age, the incident underscored how dramatically cultural standards had shifted. As veteran actor Dick Van Dyke, then 96, reportedly remarked afterward, "In my day, we settled disagreements privately, not with violence on America's most dignified stage." Whether viewed as a momentary lapse by a provoked husband or an inexcusable act of violence, the slap instantly became the defining moment of the 94th Academy Awards, overshadowing all other aspects of the ceremony and ensuring its place in Oscar infamy. From an unplanned moment of confrontation, we moved to a carefully orchestrated bit that unexpectedly made Oscar history in the digital age. Angie, pizza, all right, sorry, 9. Ellen's star-studded selfie breaks Twitter. 2014. In an Oscar ceremony filled with expected winners and few surprises, host Ellen DeGeneres created an unexpected cultural phenomenon when she gathered a group of A-list celebrities for an impromptu selfie during the 86 Academy Awards on March 2nd, 2014. Midway through the broadcast, DeGeneres wandered into the audience with her smartphone and began recruiting stars for a group photo. "I want to take a picture, a selfie with you all," she announced, initially approaching Miles Straw. Within seconds, the gathering grew as Jennifer Lawrence, Channing Tatum, Julia Roberts, Bradley Cooper, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Lupita Nyong'o, Kevin Spacey, and Jared Leto joined the frame. Cooper, with the longest arms, took the actual photo as the stars crowded together, grinning like ordinary fans rather than Hollywood royalty. "Weary going to break Twitter right now," DeGeneres predicted as she posted the image. Her prophecy came true almost immediately. Within minutes, the photo had been retweeted over 1 million times, and shortly thereafter, Twitter briefly crashed under the volume. By the end of the ceremony, the selfie had broken all previous retweet records, eventually surpassing 3 million shares. What made this moment historically significant was how it symbolized Hollywood's pivot towards social media engagement and direct audience connection. Previous Oscar ceremonies had maintained ascertained distance between viewers and stars. We watched them on their Olympian stage. DeGeneres' selfie shattered that fourth wall, creating a seemingly spontaneous moment of celebrity accessibility that was perfectly calibrated for the social media age. For students of Oscar history, the selfie represented a fascinating evolution in how the ceremony engaged with changing media landscapes. From radio broadcasts in the 1930s to television in the 1950 STO live streams in the 2000s, the Academy Awards had always adapted to new technologies. The selfie moment sponsored by Samsung, though many viewers miss that detail, marked the Academy's full embrace of social media's central to its cultural relevance. The night social media hijacked the Oscars. While seemingly lighthearted fun, the selfie actually signaled a profound shift in Hollywood's relationship with its audience. Suddenly, the most prestigious awards ceremony wasn't just about honoring cinematic excellence. It was also about creating shareable content. The boundary between the exclusive celebration and public participation had been cleverly blurred. The record-breaking selfie also revealed celebrity hierarchies in interesting ways. Some stars, like Liza Minnelli, tried to join the photo, but couldn't push through the crowd. Others were strategically centered. For Hollywood history buffs, it created a fascinating time capsule of who was considered A-list in 2014, though the presence of Kevin Spacey would later make the image somewhat problematic in retrospect. In the evolution of Oscar moments, Ellen's selfie stands as the first true viral sensation deliberately created during the ceremony, a harbinger of how social media would increasingly shape the Academy's approach to its signature event. While Ellen's selfie made digital history, our next moment represented a long overdue breakthrough in Hollywood's Gender Barrier Point 10. Kathryn Bigelow becomes the first female Best Director. 2010, when Barbra Streisand opened the envelope at the 82nd Academy Awards and exclaimed, "The time has come." Before announcing Kathryn Bigelow as Best Director for The Hurt Locker, she was acknowledging a shamefully overdue milestone. In the Academy's 82-year history, no woman had ever won Best Director. Despite the contributions of filmmakers from Lois Weber and Dorothy Arsner in the silent era to contemporaries like Jane Campion and Sophia Coppola, Bigelow's victory was historic, not just for breaking the gender barrier, but for the film that earned her the honor, The Hurt Locker, a tense, visceral examination of a bomb disposal unit in Iraq, defied stereotypes about women's films. Bigelow had built her career directing action-oriented films like Point Break and Strange Days, working in genres traditionally dominated by men. Adding to the evening's drama was the fact that Bigelow was competing against Herrick's husband James Cameron, whose technological marvel Avatar had become the highest-grossing film of all time. The David versus Goliath narrative, a small, independently financed war film against a studio blockbuster, added another layer to the historic moment. In her acceptance speech, Bigelow notably did not emphasize the gender breakthrough, instead dedicating her award to the women and men in the military who risked their lives on a daily basis in Iraq and Afghanistan and around the world. This choice itself reflected something about Bigelow's career, her consistent refusal to be defined primarily as a female director rather than simply a director. For Hollywood historians, Bigelow's win highlighted both progress and the painfully slow pace of change. While women have been directing films in cinema's earliest days, the industry had systematically excluded them from opportunities, especially on bigger budget productions. That it took 82 years to recognize Afro-male directors spoke volumes about entrenched gender bias in Hollywood. In A Boy Club, she brought the bombs that Bigelow's victory was significant not just for who she was, but for what she achieved, crafting a film that managed to be both critically acclaimed and commercially successful, without compromising her artistic vision. The Hurt Locker also won Best Picture that night, cementing its place in film history. The historical impact of Bigelow's win continues to be evaluated. In the years since, only two other women have won Best Director: Chloe Zhao for Nomadland 2021 and Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog 2022. Whether her breakthrough represented a genuine turning point or merely an exception that proved the rule remains an open question in discussions of gender equity in Hollywood. From Bigelow's groundbreaking win, we turn to one of Oscar's most infamous unexpected moments. And someone quite likely 11, the streaker interrupts David Nan. 1974. The 46 Academy Awards in 1974 delivered one of the most unexpected moments in television history when a nude man ran across the stage behind host David Nan. Robert Opel, a photographer and gallery owner, had snuck backstage by posing as a journalist. Just as Nan was about to introduce Elizabeth Taylor, Opel dashed behind him, completely naked except for a mustache and flashing a peace sign. The audience gasped, but Nan, embodying the unflappable poise of old Hollywood, barely missed a beat. With impeccable timing and composure, he quipped, "I isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings?" The audience erupted in laughter and applause at Nan's quick wit. For a ceremony that had been remarkably staid and formal through its history, this unexpected nude dash represented a collision between Hollywood propriety and 1970s counterculture rebellion. The historical significance of the streaking incident extends beyond its shock value. It occurred during a transitional period in American culture. The Vietnam War was ending, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and social norms regarding nudity and public behavior were rapidly evolving. Opal's streak and the audience's reaction reflected these changing attitudes, even in a setting as traditionally conservative as the Academy Awards. For Oscar historians, the moment is particularly noteworthy for the contrast between Opal's radical act and Nan's old-school response. Nan, A British actor who had embodied sophistication throughout his career, represented Hollywood's established order. His perfect ad-lib, which some have suggested was prepared in advance, though this has been disputed, demonstrated the quick thinking and polish of a bygone era in entertainment. And the Oscar for Best Timing goes to Nan. This moment lives on in Oscar lore, not primarily because of the streaker himself, but because of Nan's unflappable response. It exemplified the clash between old and new Hollywood values that defined much of the 1970s. Opal's countercultural provocation met with Nan's establishment wit. Tragically, Opal's life was cut short when he was murdered during a robbery attempt at his San Francisco gallery in 1979. His brief moment of Oscar infamy had given him a measure of celebrity, but his death received far less attention than his streaking incident. For a moment meant to shock and provoke, there was an unexpectedly somber coda. From an unauthorized Oscar moment, we moved to one of the most dominant performances in Academy history. The Oscar goes to James Cameron for Titanic .12. Titanic ties the all-time win record in 1998. When Titanic arrived at the 70th Academy Awards on March 23, 1998, it was already a cultural phenomenon. James Cameron's epic romantic disaster film had shattered box office records, becoming the first film to earn more than $1 billion worldwide. Its theme song, Celine Dion's My Heart, Will Go On, dominated radio airwaves. Stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet had become global icons. The question wasn't whether Titanic would win Oscars, but how many. The answer proved historic. 11 Academy Awards from 14 nominations, tying the record set by Ben-Hur in 1960 for the most Oscars won by a single film. This record would later be matched by The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King in 2004. Titanic won nearly every major category it entered, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Song, and a sweep of the technical categories. As the evening progressed and Titanic continued accumulating statuettes, the ceremony took on an air of inevitability. Producer John Landau and director James Cameron took multiple trips to the podium, with Cameron memorably shouting, "I'm the king of the world," during his Best Director acceptance speech, echoing the line from the film that in this context struck him as arrogant rather than triumphant. The historical significance of Titanic's Oscar domination goes beyond mere statistics. It represented the rare alignment of enormous commercial success with critical recognition. A film that both broke box office records and satisfied the Academy's artistic standards. Throughout Oscar history, there has often been tension between populist entertainment and critical prestige. Titanic momentarily bridged that divide. For film historians, Titanic's Oscar sweep also marked the last gasp of ascertained kind of old-fashioned Hollywood epic. A massively expensive original story with practical effects alongside emerging CGI aimed at the broadest possible audience. The film industry waits on the cusp of a franchise-driven future, making Titanic's standalone success all the more remarkable in retrospect. A box office juggernaut that swept the Academy. 2. While some critics and industry insiders grumbled about the film's sometimes clunky dialogue and straightforward storytelling, the combination of technical innovation, emotional impact, and cultural penetration proved irresistible to Academy voters. Titanic became that rare film that defined its moment not just at box office, but at the industry's most prestigious award ceremony. The film's Oscar dominance also cemented James Cameron as one of Hollywood's most successful directors, giving him the creative capital to pursue increasingly ambitious projects. The Titanic Oscar sweep remains one of the most complete endorsements the Academy has ever bestowed on a single film, a recognition that sometimes popular sentiment and critical acclaim can perfectly align. From Oscar quantity, we move to a moment defined by the quality of emotional response it generated. Point 13. Charlie Chaplin gets a 12-minute standing ovation. 1972. When Charlie Chaplin returned to the United States in 1972 after a 20-year absence, it was all becoming loaded with historical and emotional significance. The British-born filmmaker who had helped define American cinema had left the country in 1952 under a cloud of political suspicion. His visa revoked during the McCarthy era amid accusations of communist sympathies. Now at age 82, he was returning to receive an honorary Oscar at the 44th Academy Awards. As Chaplin was introduced, the audience at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion rose to their feet in what would become the longest-standing ovation in Oscar history, a full 12 minutes of uninterrupted applause. The camera captured a visibly moved Chaplin, overwhelmed by the reception, raising his hands as a familiar gesture of gratitude. When applause finally subsided enough for him to speak, Chaplin's words were simple but profound. "This is an emotional moment for me, and words seem so futile, so feeble. Thank you for the honor of inviting me here. And oh, you're wonderful, sweet people. Thank you." The historical weight of this moment cannot be overstated. Chaplin wasn't just any filmmaker being honored for his career. He was perhaps the most influential artist of cinema's first half-century. From his creation of the iconic character to his pioneering work as actor, director, writer, producer, and composer, Chaplin had helped establish film as a legitimate art form during Hollywood's formative years. His honorary Oscar, officially for the incalculable effect he has had in making motion pictures the art form of the century, represented more than recognition of artistic achievement. It was an implicit acknowledgement of the injustice done to Chaplin during their scare, when political hysteria had driven one of America's most beloved entertainers into European exile.